अविरोधितया कर्म नाविद्यां विनिवर्तयेत् विद्या विद्यां निहान्त्येव तेजस्तिमिरसङ्घवत्. Action cannot destroy ignorance, for action is not in conflict or opposite to ignorance. Knowledge destroys ignorance as light destroys deep darkness. Tejas Timira Sanghavat. In the previous verse, we learned that like as fire can only cook food, the knowledge only can lead to liberation. In this shloka, Shankara is answering another doubt that may arise for a seeker as to why it is not possible for austerities and discipline to liberate one, and why is it that only knowledge can lead to realization. Towards the end of the previous talk, this has been covered more or less. Let us see. Shankara must have given this question a serious thought before arriving at this conclusion. Even considering the startling achievements of action in the external world, the answer Shankara comes up with is to still place knowledge above action. About ignorance. Ignorance is what pervades our entire life. Because of ignorance, though essentially born divine, created by divinity as divine, we still get identified with our body. We then perform actions to take care of this body or to gratify our senses, which make us believe that we are this body, mind, intellect. Very soon, we will include actions that arise purely from the desires arising through our body identification. Soon we are engulfed in activities, all of which may be astounding in themselves, but they do not take us to the single goal or single step towards God realization. When our actions are not fulfilling, we become unhappy. Then another series of actions are started by us to make us happy. This will not give a permanent solution. Even in the spiritual path, from one guru to another guru, from one mantra to another mantra, from one path to another path. Because even while pursuing spirituality, we are strongly identifying ourselves with our body, that ignorance. All this is because actions are rooted in ignorance. They are conceived in ignorance. governed by ignorance, mothered and fathered by ignorance, supported by ignorance. If that be so, then how actions can oppose ignorance when ignorance is so rooted in them, in all the actions? Any action we do apart from our Nitya Karma and sincere sadhana, after enduring ourselves with sadhana chatushtaya, or in bhakti totally surrendering and totally immersed in devotion or prema. Apart from this, any other action, just think of it. They emerge, they owe their root cause, they arise from our deep rooted belief that we are this body. Desires arise within us only due to our body identification. In the deep sleep, there are no desires because there is no body identification. Desires arise out of ignorance, out of our body identification, which we ignorantly think to be true and eternal. And actions are prompted by such desires. The colorings of the ego are given in the MBCA session in YouTube as well as blog post Raga Dvesha Ityadi. So in the flow, when we retrace and realize that actions are born necessarily out of our ignorance that we are this body, then how can such action eliminate or clear our ignorance? Logically, it is not possible, right? We need to turn to something that is the enemy of, that is opposite to ignorance, and that is knowledge. Okay, opposite of avidya is vidya, knowledge. Since actions have identification with the conditioning or the upadhis as their basis, they will only strengthen our ignorance. They will only breed more and more ego in us. On the other hand, knowledge is in direct opposition to ignorance. It is only thing that stands a chance to destroy ignorance. If ignorance is the root of our bondage, then knowledge is surely the only means to liberate us from the bondage. This is the essence of this verse. The great impediments to the spiritual progress are known as avidya, kama, and karma. Ignorance, desire, action in its sequence, in their sequence. These three aspects of the obstacle are really a single obstacle presenting itself in different ways. An ignorance of the true and ultimate nature of things is called avidya. We call it as ignorance or nescience or the absence of knowledge or darkness, etc. The ignorance breeds a desire for the external objects of sense, kama. An ignorance of the character of reality, which is avidya, at once presupposes an affirmation of personality, ahamkara, and a desire to contact other personalities. See, if we are left alone in a place where there is no other human being, plucking fruits from the trees and eating and sleeping and going around and bathing in the river, they may all become our nitya karma with no desire for any one of them. Desire can arise only when there are more than one. There are two or three or hundreds or thousands. And the root cause of desire is our ignorance that we are this body. So when we are this body, we believe we are this body, mind, senses, we want to gratify our senses, our body, our mind through other bodies, other minds, other personalities. And when this need for gratification from other bodies or other personalities arises, there arises the desire. Desire can arise only when there is more than one. Otherwise, there can be no desire. And Vedanta teaches us and takes us to exist as only one. Ekam eva advitiyam. Thus, avidya causes ahankara. They become inseparable. And then from the ahankara, ragadvesha, kama, desires arise. To fulfill kama, we undertake action. So the whole of one's life is a threefold effort of avidya, kama, karma: ignorance, desire, and action. This is the Tripura, or the threefold fortress of the demonical powers, which Lord Shiva is supposed to have broken through with a single arrow. Alanetra Tripurahari Sai Shankara. Huh? Nandivahana in the Shiva Shiva Shambho Mahesha Girisha. Nandivahana Nagabhushana. Phalan Lochana Tripura Vihara. These are the three citadels made of gold, silver, and iron. So they say in the Puranas. These are the three knots of Granthis: Brahma Granthi, Vishnu Granthi, and Rudra Granthi, which the yogins speak of. It is a single power appearing as three independent impediments to the expression of knowledge. In the Katha Upanishad, the 3 days when Nachiketa fasted waiting for Yama, the 3 fasts of Nachiketa in the Katha Upanishad may be compared to the soul's endeavor to break through these 3 fortresses. A withdrawal gradually effected from the outer to the inner, overcoming the force of karma, overcoming the power of kama, and finally overcoming avidya. Sorry. You overcome, like Nachiketa, exactly these three forms of tapas or the three fasts with this inner meaning. This is described as Trinachiketa in the Upanishad. One overcomes birth and death with these three processes. You gain mastery over these conditions which limit you to the body in all its three layers of expression and to the three planes, the physical, astral, and celestial. These are the essential bondage of the soul inwardly as well as outwardly, limiting its expression and confining it to samsara. The overcoming of this threefold bondage, avidya, kama, karma, is the implication of the term Trinachiketa mentioned in the Kathopanishad. The instruments that have to be made use of in this effort are the mind, intellect, and the spirit. Manas, Buddhi, Atma. All combined in a single pointed effort, described as Tribhiretya Sandhim. Revered Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji says, between Atma and Deha there is a granthi, a knot brought about by avidya, ignorance. From that comes kama, followed by karma. By this three-stranded string, avidya, kama, karma, together called Hridaya Granthi, an individual is bound and is released when the knot is untied. Doing varieties of things only makes it more knotted, since action stems from a failure to understand the original problem. Often it happens, without proper knowledge, vidya, we try to untie a knot in a thread, okay, and we end up making more complicated knots in that. So that is how, without vidya, without the understanding the reality that I am not this body, I am this Atman, in the backdrop of that ignorance, we take up actions to give us comfort, we take up actions to make our life easy, and those actions makes our life more miserable. Like we end up making more knots. How to untie those knots? With proper knowledge of how to untie the knots, with proper Brahma Vidya. Only this knot, Hridaya Granthi of avidya, kama, karma can be removed. In our life, the problem is ignorance, and to determine, we need Viveka, the first of the sadhana chatushtaya. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha are the four strands hanging from the tangled ball of samsara. If you pull on the first three, you are tightening the knots. Pursuing Artha and Kama only create further problems. And though dharma resolves problems to an extent, it does not untie the fundamental knot. For untying the fundamental knot, you have to remove avidya through the knowledge that aham brahmasmi, I am that. When you do this, the knot resolves because there is no longer any doubt about whether Atman is Brahman or the limited Karta or Akarta, Bhokta or Abhokta. Unquote, Swamiji. Now comes the example of light destroying darkness. To many sadhakas, perhaps this would have been the first talk delivered to them, talking about the later sadhakas. A strikingly appropriate analogy is given by Shankara. If one has entered a cave and there is a pitch darkness there, the only way to get rid of is to bring some light, break a brick and usher in some light, and the darkness vanishes instantly. If we stuck up in the cave decide to try any other method, what would happen? If we try to sweep and thinking that sweeping the cave will bring us light, or using the best of the detergents will bring us the light, or pouring lot of water will bring and cleaning will bring the light, all these are all total failures. You have to just remove one brick, and this one brick is removed through sadhana chatushtaya and then intense sadhana. Removing this one brick is letting go of avidya in totality and getting the light, getting the subjective experience of self as a spark in our meditation. This is how knowledge, that is the light alone, will help ultimately to get rid of the darkness of ignorance. Also, this example further highlights the previous verse's lesson that any austerity, karma, bhakti, yoga, etc. cannot by themselves get liberation. Only jnana, which was illustrated through fire for cooking in the previous verse and light in the cave in the current verse, only jnana can get liberation for a sincere mumukshu sadhaka. And this experiencing the light is not without, the light is within. Always within. It is a discovering Atman in the cave of our heart, says Taittiriya Upanishad. It is one's own nature, and hence this knowledge of self which is ever present can never be got as a result of any action. All Sai devotees should take home this lesson. All actions as an office bearer or as an active volunteer or as an active devotee is all extremely good. No problems, because at least they are helping you to reduce your ego. At least the actions as a Sai Sevak should help you in reducing your ego. Otherwise, even those actions are useless in themselves. If they are breeding your ego, better watch out. Okay, let the actions be on, and let them feel that you are a small drop in the ocean. And Swami, out of His grace, has given you this opportunity to render some service inside organization. They will help to reduce your ego. They may not take you to moksha, only the light. From the bhakti, you, if you are a sincere bhakta, you will gradually and secretly, without even knowing, evolve to jnana. I underline sincere bhakta. Sincere bhakta means you should put yourself in a position where you are seated inside the interview room and Swami is able to tell that you are a sincere devotee. Then only you are a sincere bhakta. All these actions should be combined with Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, taking instructions from a realized master, dead or alive, and then get into intense meditation, Nididhyasana, so that that light upon removal of the brick is experienced within the cave of your heart. We start with actions, we progress in actions, we live in actions, we get acknowledgement for our actions, we are happy with the recognition and acknowledgements, and we really cry out when some blame comes to us in our action, and then we die ultimately. No use. Actions must be combined with dhyana, meditation, the path of knowledge. Says Shankara. Hari Om.